Support for the roundup comes from Symphony 3. Councils around the country are working hard to keep their communities safe and prepared before, during and after emergencies such as bushfires and floods. And in recent weeks, Symphony 3 has been working with councils around Victoria, including Greater Bendigo, Mildura, Ararat and Golden Plains, to create emergency dashboards, pulling together live data including weather, traffic, emergency incidents, unplanned and planned disruptions, news and social media feeds. An emergency dashboard is cost-effective and can be deployed in just 3 days. Find out more at www.symphony3.com. Just ahead on the roundup, protests and a petition as Kiama Council considers budget cuts. A former council CEO loses a dispute over his exit package. A council fight over workplace safety spills into public view. A council renaming proposal slammed as chasing snob value. A new lever to turn planning approvals into homes in Hobart. Greater Bendigo's new councillor revealed. And a court finds WALGA is subject to FOI laws. Hello, I'm Chris Eddy. Welcome back to the Local Government News Roundup. All of that and more just ahead on Australia's #1 local government podcast, brought to you by the Victorian Local Governance Association, the national broadcaster on all things local government. With support from Symphony 3, simple, connected customer experiences, and Rath Engineering Development, smarter local government systems built from real on-the-ground experience. Thank you for joining us on the podcast. It's Friday the 10th of April 2026 and here are today's top 3 stories on the Local Government News Roundup. Kiama Council has narrowly approved a controversial budget framework that could see 30 jobs axed and the total removal of local youth and community services. Meeting on Tuesday night with Mayor Cameron McDonald absent due to a family holiday, councillors voted 4-3 to include the cuts in a draft budget, which will also include reduced library hours and the potential commercial lease of the historic Pilot's Cottage. While councillors have agreed to a pay freeze to share the financial burden, local residents and state MPs have slammed the plan as short-term and unfair. The member for Kiama, Caitlin McInerney, announced that she's launched a petition calling for a budget that addresses structural problems without cuts to frontline services. The draft budget will go to the next council meeting on the 21st of April and will then be on public exhibition for 4 weeks of community feedback. A dispute over a former council executive's exit package has ended with a tribunal refusing to step in, according to the Courier Mail. Scott Owen, who was Chief Executive of Mackay Regional Council in Queensland until February last year, argued a $23,000 motor vehicle allowance should have been counted in his final payout, and he says he was underpaid more than $17,000. But the Queensland Industrial Relations Commission has dismissed the claim, saying Mr Owen signed a deed of release when he left, and that kind of contract dispute belongs in another court. And at the City of South Perth, an internal fight over workplace safety is spilling into public view, according to Perth Now. Acting Chief Executive Anita Amprimo says she'll go ahead with a psychosocial risk assessment, even after councillors voted to block it. Mayor Glenn Milner argued the review could duplicate work by the state-appointed monitor, but several councillors say the decision risks interfering with the CEO's duties. Ms Amprimo says the Work Health and Safety Act leaves no choice and she's now seeking quotes from multiple providers. The state's local government minister Hannah Beasley says there's no room for politics when staff mental well-being is at stake. And those are today's top 3 stories here on the Local Government News Roundup. Let's head to Victoria for the latest, and results of the Greater Bendigo by-election are in. A tight race for the position on the council vacated by John McElrath last November has been won by Donna Nicholas. Ms Nicholas took 22.7% of first preference votes, ahead of Colin Carrington and AJ Mishra, each on 18%. After distribution of preferences, Ms Nicholas came away with 63.84% of the vote. The results were revealed on Thursday afternoon and are yet to be officially declared. Victoria's latest council audits have delivered a mixed message, according to the state's Auditor-General. Reliable books, but too many late reports. The Auditor-General says users can rely on Council's 2024-25 financial reports and performance statements, and clear opinions were issued across the sector, with a handful of related entity audits still underway. But more than half of councils missed draft submission timeframes, and 14 didn't meet annual report deadlines. The report also flags more errors in draft statements and says councils need stronger quality assurance and clearer oversight, especially in relation to capital budgeting and project delivery. The Victorian Local Governance Association has appointed Councillor Damien Gallagher, Mayor of Murrindindi Shire Council, to fill a vacant board position. The appointment is effective immediately and runs until the 30th of June 2028, when Councillor Gallagher can stand for election. VLGA President Dr Josh Fergus has welcomed the appointment, and Councillor Gallagher says he's looking forward to making a valuable and sustained contribution to the board. And Murrindindi Shire Council has returned to standard road inspections and maintenance and repair schedules with the reinstatement of its road management plan. The plan was suspended after the Longwood fire event, and the reinstatement does not apply to roads directly impacted by the fire. About 450 kilometres of fire-impacted roads remain under restricted suspension for a further 6 months. Now, a quick word on the mayoral standoff at Wyndham City Council, if you're wondering what's happening there. Well, there's little new to report as of the time of recording. Councillor Preet Singh has so far not responded to calls for his resignation, both as mayor and from the council. He's been silent on his Facebook page since announcing last week that he would temporarily stand aside from the mayoral position. A second community protest was held on the Easter weekend, and we await details of the appointment of a municipal monitor to the council. The next meeting of the council is not due until the last week of April, at which a draft budget is expected to be adopted, and a planning committee meeting scheduled for next week has been cancelled. In Cardinia Shire, a spate of vandalism on the Easter weekend forced a major community sports precinct offline. The council says a substation at Toomuck Recreation Reserve was damaged on Monday, with offenders cutting power and trying to steal copper cables. The outage has shut the reserve, including Cardinia Life, until AusNet can safely restore electricity. A generator has been brought in to keep critical sewer services running, and security has been deployed. Victoria Police are believed to be investigating similar attacks at other local reserves. Campaspe Shire Council has greenlit a major expansion for a local pig farm, despite a staggering 4,300 objections. The Cobram Courier reported that the Midland Bacon facility at Carrag was granted approval for 3 new sheds at a recent council meeting. While the volume of opposition was high, a significant detail was noted. Out of over 4,000 objectors, only 1 was actually from the local area. And that sole local objector has since withdrawn their concerns after amendments to the proposal. The council voted 8-1 in favour, citing the project's role in bringing the site up to modern environmental standards and boosting local economic investment. A Corangamite Shire Council submission to Victoria's 2026 Summer Fires Inquiry is pushing for a tougher, more local approach to preparedness and recovery. Mayor Kate Macon says January's fires exposed gaps in emergency management, from ageing CFA fleets and falling volunteer numbers to fragile power and phone networks that can leave communities without warnings. The submission calls for more flexible fuel management, faster grass fire alerts, backup power and communications at local hubs, and recovery grants that let rural communities lead. And Yarriambiack Shire Council has tightened its position on mining, renewable energy and transmission lines, setting clearer rules for power infrastructure on road reserves and council land. Councillors have unanimously endorsed a revised position statement, noting private connection lines on public land must be assessed under safety laws and are restricted unless the applicant is properly licensed. Mayor Andrew McLean says the update provides clarity for proponents and the community and helps the council focus limited resources on proposals within a clear legal framework. Also making news, 10 artists and community groups have won funding through Bawbaw Council's Arts and Culture Fund, now in its second year. Mayor Councillor Kate Wilson said the program drew 27 applications, nearly double last year, with projects ranging from ceramics and mosaics to photography and digital art. Surf Coast Shire has earned Eco Destination certification from Ecotourism Australia, meeting global standards for sustainable tourism and environmental management. Mayor Councillor Libby Stapleton says the Surf Coast's world-class environment draws 2.6 million visitors a year. And Bass Coast Shire Council is letting residents know that from this month they can no longer place cardboard in their green lid FOGO bin. Mayor Rochelle Halstead says it's about keeping contamination out of the compost stream and that all cardboard should go in the yellow lid recycling bin or be dropped off free at council waste and recycling sites. You're listening to the Local Government News Roundup, which is brought to you by the Victorian Local Governance Association, and it's 30 years since Victoria brought back elected local councils, a moment the VLGA says strengthened local democracy. The association was formed in 1994 after forced council amalgamations under the Kennett government. Chief Executive Catherine Arndt says for 3 decades the VLGA has backed councillors and council staff with training, skills development and policy guidance. She says the aim is practical support that improves culture and conduct and helps elected representatives make inclusive, ethical decisions for their communities. This week on VLGA Connect, I'm joined by VLGA President Dr Josh Fergus, the association's first president Liana Thompson, and governance patron and very first paid officer of the VLGA, Hayden Raysmith, for a discussion about the association's beginnings back in the 1990s. You can watch that episode on YouTube now or add VLGA Connect to your podcast playlist. More New South Wales news, and the New South Wales government says it wants to make planning consultations easier to follow and more consistent from one council area to the next. A draft statewide community participation plan is now on exhibition, aiming to replace more than 100 local plans that can differ on time frames and thresholds. Planning Minister Paul Scully says residents should be able to tell clearly how and when to have their say on proposals that affect their neighbourhood. The draft would extend consultation on major strategic plans from 45 to 60 days, while reducing exhibition requirements for some lower impact developments. In Sydney's inner west, Strathfield Council is proposing a boundary change that would see parts of Homebush and Homebush West, south of the rail line, renamed as Strathfield. Deputy Mayor John Paul Bellardi says supporters want less confusion about what Homebush refers to, and he concedes some residents are drawn to Strathfield's higher property values. But locals interviewed by ABC Radio say the plan feels like chasing snob value, and they don't want Homebush to lose its identity. The final decision sits with the New South Wales Geographical Names Board if the council proceeds. The Hawkesbury River is a lifeline for much of Western Sydney, but 8 councils and more than a dozen government agencies are sharing the job of looking after it, and nobody is really in charge. The Hills Shire Mayor, Dr Michelle Byrne, says the system is all care and no responsibility, with no public water quality targets and no single body coordinating flood response. The council is urging the New South Wales government to restore a dedicated Hawkesbury authority to align planning, monitor health and protect drinking water, farms, ecosystems and recreation as the catchment grows towards 10 million people. In Sydney's east, Randwick Council wants to put the brakes on new for-profit student housing, saying one corridor near UNSW has tipped too far. According to an ABC News report, more than 5,000 student rooms have been approved in 6 years along Anzac Parade, but fewer than 500 homes. Mayor Dylan Parker says the mix is perverse and has asked Planning Minister Paul Scully for a carve-out from rules that allow extra floor space and smaller rooms. The minister says blanket exemptions are not being considered. In Sydney South, a plan to loosen rules on waterfront development is setting up a packed council meeting, according to the leader. Sutherland Shire Council is considering rezoning parts of Port Hacking and Botany Bay from W1 natural waterways to W2 recreational waterways, where they sit beside residential land. Environmental groups say it risks shorebird habitat and seagrass and puts commercial and private interests first. The State Planning Department has already raised concerns, including impacts on sensitive areas like Deeb and Spit, and it wants changes before it will support the proposal. A council decision has been deferred until the April 28 meeting. In the Central West, Oberon Council says O'Connell's avenue of trees planted between 1925 and 1927 to honour World War I service has been added to the local heritage schedule. Because the avenue sits in a classified road reserve, the council worked with Transport for New South Wales and Heritage New South Wales, balancing safety with the health of the trees. Mayor Andrew McKibben says the listing gives a clear framework to protect the avenue and the story it carries. And Shellharbour Council is putting a new housing idea in front of the public, a 2-year pilot that could let some mobile tiny homes be rented out without a full development application. The trial is aimed at renters, but would still require basic planning and safety rules, including setbacks, service connections and fire measures. Mayor Chris Homer says the goal is to ease local housing pressure while making sure the changes are carefully managed. The New South Wales Government has issued a gateway determination, meaning the proposal can be exhibited, but it's not approved yet. Also making news in Lismore, the council has begun a long-term pavement restoration program to rebuild flood-damaged roads across 49 rural routes, treating more than 100 sites through to early 2028. The works will use stabilisation methods like foamed bitumen to reuse existing materials and improve resilience. Parks Shire Council is weighing a ban on dogs at 3 busy sports grounds after repeated complaints about uncollected dog waste. The council says the mess is creating a health risk for people using Harrison Park, Woodward Oval and Keast Park for sport and recreation. And Wedden Shire Council is seeking community feedback on a draft artificial intelligence governance policy now on public exhibition. The council says AI could improve productivity and help address staffing shortages, but only with clear rules to manage privacy and risk. This is the Local Government News Roundup, episode number 572 for Friday the 10th of April 2026. Let's whip around the nation for more local government news. There's been a change of deputy mayor at the Shire of Cloncurry in Queensland. Councillor Vicky Campbell has taken on the role from this week, succeeding Councillor Sam Daniels, whose 2-year term has ended. Councillor Daniels has been the deputy since 2020. Councillor Campbell will serve as deputy until the end of the current term in 2028. In the Queensland town of Inglewood, the local council is trying to shift a flying fox roost so Memorial Park is ready for Anzac Day. Goondiwindi Regional Council says a colony has moved into the park and has swelled to about 3 times its usual size. From next week, crews will start 5 mornings of non-lethal nudging, using air blowers, smoke from green waste, sprinklers and scarecrows to encourage the bats back towards vegetation along the McIntyre Brook. Mayor Councillor Lawrence Springborg AM says the aim is balance, reducing noise, smell and mess, while staying within state wildlife rules. To Tasmania, and in Hobart, the council is trying a new lever to turn planning approvals into actual homes. The City of Hobart has adopted an inner-city housing supply incentive aimed at projects that are approved but stuck on the sidelines. Eligible developments of 5 or more dwellings or upper floor conversions can apply for a 5-year 100% rates remission and may be reimbursed development application fees once construction begins. Lord Mayor Anna Reynolds says approvals aren't the problem. Getting projects built is, with around 900 approved dwellings still undelivered. Launceston Council has released its draft annual plan and budget for 26-27 alongside a 4-year delivery plan. The papers include a proposed 4.9% rates rise and a record $66 million capital works program covering roads, sporting facilities, community halls and major projects like the Princess Theatre redevelopment. Mayor Matthew Garwood says the budget is about keeping essential upgrades moving while steering back to a balanced budget within 2 years. And Launceston community groups leasing council buildings can start fixing and maintaining them again after a months-long council freeze due to ad hoc approvals and inconsistent policy settings. The Examiner reported that the council has now provided an online portal for leaseholders to seek landowner consent before works begin. We're in South Australia now. In Port Adelaide Enfield, a new council building is being held up as a national benchmark for sustainability. The Yitpi Yartapultiku precinct has received a 6-star Green Star rating, the Green Building Council's top world leadership certification, and it's only the second building in Australia to reach that mark. The all-electric site runs on 100% renewable power, cuts operational energy by 61%, and slashes potable water use by 99%. It also includes a living shoreline to protect the riverbank and a healthy country plan to guide long-term care of country. In Renmark, a big piece of behind-the-scenes infrastructure is moving ahead, and it could open the door to more than 500 new homes. Renmark Council has awarded the contract for the Renmark West Community Wastewater Management System expansion after a competitive tender. Construction is expected to start in the coming months, with completion forecast for early next year. Mayor Peter Hunter says demand for housing is strong and the project will unlock land supply while meeting public health and environmental standards. It's expected that costs will be recovered over time through developer contributions, not from general ratepayers. Across to Western Australia, a Supreme Court decision has confirmed the Western Australian Local Government Association, or WALGA, is an agency under the Freedom of Information Act. The appeal was brought by the Local Government Elected Members Association. Justice Solomon found WALGA was created under state law. Its voting members are local governments and its core job is to represent and support the sector. Integrity Management Solutions says the practical effect is that WALGA's documents can now be requested under FOI alongside state and local authorities, a shift that could sharpen the scrutiny of lobbying and policy work. Manjimup Shire Council has gone against an officer recommendation to send a delegation to the National General Assembly in Canberra in June. It was proposed that the Shire President and Deputy Shire President would attend, but those plans have now been dropped in recognition of the current fuel security crisis. The Council also resolved that no staff members would attend this year's conference either. Is your council reconsidering attendance this year due to the fuel crisis? Let us know by voting in our new poll on our website at lgnewsroundup.com. And in Perth's inner south, the town of Victoria Park is pushing back on proposals to change how local elections work. At a recent special council meeting, they chose the current model of half-spill elections every 2 years as their preference, instead of moving to a full spill every 4 years. Mayor Karen Vernon says the staggered model helps keep corporate knowledge on councils as new members come in. Perth Now reported that the council also voted 7-2 against compulsory voting, warning it could bring unintended consequences and distort genuine engagement. Now let's bring you a selection of stories from other parts of the world in our global roundup, starting in the UK and in Cambridgeshire, where a council is facing an £800 million road maintenance backlog and is turning to artificial intelligence to spot potholes faster and to capture a clearer picture of what's failing and where. BBC News reported that cameras fitted to inspection vehicles will record the network and software will flag defects like potholes for officers to review. The council says weekly defect reports peaked at nearly 2,900 in February and have since fallen. Leaders say rebuilding every road to a good standard is pretty much impossible, so the focus is on finding problems early and targeting repairs. Let's go across to Italy and the Adriatic beach town of Riccione, where the local council has bought the villa where Benito Mussolini once spent summer holidays, to stop it becoming a shrine for fascist nostalgics. Mayor Daniela Angelini calls the purchase an act of love and vision, according to The Guardian, saying the name will stay but the story won't be sanitised. The plan is to keep the building in public hands as a community space for exhibitions and events, including displays that confront the good, the bad and the ugly of 20th century history. Riccioni formally revoked Mussolini's honorary citizenship last year. In Palm Springs, California, city leaders are weighing a simple question with big consequences. Should residents choose the mayor directly at the ballot box? Right now, the mayor is selected by councillors from among themselves. Supporters say a public vote could strengthen accountability and give the role a clearer mandate to set priorities, according to nationaltoday.com. But critics warn it could harden factional politics and make it harder for councillors to work together. The council is expected to debate whether to put the change to voters at a meeting on April 26, with a possible referendum at the November 2026 election. In Albuquerque, New Mexico, the mayor, Tim Keller, has signed a new ordinance meant to limit where immigration arrests can happen as federal enforcement ramps up nationwide. The Albuquerque Journal reported that the Safer Community Spaces law restricts action in places like schools, churches and hospitals, echoing a protected areas approach used under President Biden. Keller says the city will enforce the rule and it's ready to go to court if federal agents test it. Supporters say it means parents can take children to school without fear, but critics argue it risks public safety and invites retaliation from Washington. To Canada, and in Mississauga, the City Hall is pulling back on flag raisings after they became a flashpoint. Mayor Carolyn Parish pushed a motion to ban raising national flags other than Canada's at Celebration Square and to stop lighting the Civic Centre Tower in other national colours. Mayor Parish says the requests have brought controversy and division and cost the city staff time and legal advice. CTV News reports that the change takes effect immediately, including for events already approved. Mississauga will still allow community recognition events for registered charities and non-profits, and national flags can still appear at community-led events. Toronto has voted for a similar policy, but with a later start date. And in New Zealand, Christchurch City Council is preparing for a change at the top, with Chief Executive Mary Richardson set to leave on the 1st of May. Mayor Phil Major says Richardson was brought in for a fixed term to steady the organisation and to lift resident satisfaction, service delivery and staff well-being, with the council claiming measurable gains across all three. Ms Richardson says the timing suits the next cycle of annual planning and the long-term plan from 2027 to 2037. Recruitment is underway, with an acting chief executive to be appointed to bridge the transition. That's the latest from the Local Government News Roundup, edition number 572, recorded on the morning of Friday, the 10th of April, 2026. If you have comments or feedback or story suggestions, you can send an email to chris@lgnewsroundup.com. Our podcast is brought to you by the Victorian Local Governance Association, the national broadcaster on all things local government, with support from Symphony 3, simple connected customer experiences, and Rath Engineering Development, smarter local government systems built from real on-the-ground experience. Head to our news site at lgnewsroundup.com for more on this episode, including story links and breaking news between episodes. Our podcast is recorded in the city of Greater Geelong, Victoria, on the land of the Wadawurrung people of the Kulin Nation. Until next time, thanks for listening and bye for now. Support for the Local Government News Roundup comes from Rath Engineering Development, smarter systems for local government, like Red GMS, helping councils manage gravel pits and projects, track quality, test results, blending options and haulage, and know the true cost per tonne from day one. Rath Engineering Development can give you a one-off report that uses your existing pit data to pinpoint the best gravel sources for your next resheeting program or disaster restoration works, saving your council time and money. For local government systems built from real on-the-ground experience, talk to the team at Rath Engineering Development. Head to rathed.com.au to find out more.